When someone's about to move to a new country for the very first time, they're usually going to be really anxious about all of the changes that are going to take place in their new country. And we did this. We built up how different our lives were going to be once we moved, but did they really change that much? Today we're going to talk about the differences in our lives day to day back in the US and here in Germany.
Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie and this is my wife Aubrey. We are two Americans and we are living in Germany for almost the past 8 months now. And before those 8 months, we did come to Germany and travel in and out a few times. But before that, in college, I did come to Germany and I lived with a German family for a little while. And so I have a pretty good idea of what a typical German's day-to-day life is as I immersed myself in that experience with that German family. But this video is not about what a German's life is like because we're not Germans. But what we have learned about moving to a new country is often what ends up happening is you come in and you immerse yourself in your new country and you do take on a lot of their cultures and traditions. But at the same time, you also bring with you a lot of your own cultures and traditions, and you end up kind of mixing those two things and creating your own daily life that is a combination of where you came from and the new country that you currently are living in.
Yeah, and of course, we moved from Oklahoma and now we live in Rhineland-Pfalz. So those are two very specific areas, but we like to think we had a pretty typical US life, and so we're bringing some of those things here to our life in Germany.
And the other disclaimer to this video is that this isn't our current daily life because, of course, the coronavirus has changed our life and our daily lives look a lot more like this. And so this video is about our daily lives BC or before Corona. And so today's video is the ways our day-to-day lives have changed in Germany since moving from the US. Or has it? Of course, a typical morning in Germany and in the US both start by waking up. I will typically start my daily routine by taking a shower first thing in the morning. Whenever I go into the bathroom in Germany, one of the first things I will do is open up the window to let the steam out of the restroom while I'm taking the shower. But in the US, I will typically flip a switch and that will start a fan on the ceiling that will suck the steam straight out of the restroom.
And next, we'll get dressed and then eat breakfast. So our breakfasts usually consist of like cereal, yogurt, eggs, just like they did in the US. Except now, a lot of times I like to add in some delicious German cheese. And we also often have either a liter of fresh milk from the milk machine in front of the grocery store or H-milk that comes shelf stable. In the US, we would get our milk from the refrigerator section in a gallon jug.
Immediately after finished eating, we will clean up our plates and we will throw away the trash from our breakfast. However, in Germany, of course, we divided up amongst our 5 trash cans, whereas in the US, it would all be dumped into one single trash can.
In the US, we both had our own cars, so next, of course, we would get in our cars and drive to work. We both worked about 30 minutes in the opposite direction. So we would either take our lunch and eat it at work or go out to lunch with friends, and then after work, we would come home. So living here in Germany, we just have one car, which honestly has worked pretty well for us because Donnie will sometimes take it to school about 25 minutes away, but I always walk to work.
However, I do have the option to take the train to the city that my school is in. So some days that I don't take the car, I can walk or bike to the train station and then ride that to the city and then walk or bike the rest of the way to class. However, one of the drawbacks to doing that is that it adds about an hour and a half to my regular commute because the trains aren't as regular as if I lived in a bigger city. And so it does add some more time. But I can study longer on the train, which helps a lot, and I get a little more exercise if I walk it instead of driving.
That's something that we didn't expect before moving here. We really thought that we would use public transportation a lot more in our day-to-day lives because whenever we were traveling around Germany, we used it all the time. But since then, we've realized that that was because we were traveling in bigger cities where they had a lot more readily available public transportation. But here in our area, it's a lot smaller and rural area. So we have a train that comes once an hour to our town and some buses that come every now and then.
But this is compared to the public transportation system in Oklahoma. This is what our public transportation buses look like. And also in our capital city, Oklahoma City, we just got our first tram system. They've only laid like one track down, and whenever we went home and visited, a lot of people were going and just riding it almost like a ride. Like it was the early 1900s and none of us had ever seen a tram before. So it isn't really a means of transportation at this point. They have plans on expanding it. But whenever we came to Germany here, a lot more people do rely on driving, just like we were back in Oklahoma, more so than we expected.
But we do walk to places a lot more here in Germany than we did in the US, because here our town is a lot more condensed and it's easier to get from place to place a lot quicker, whereas in the US, everything was a lot more spread out where we lived, so we had to drive in between places.
And whenever I do walk to school, I get to pass through farmers markets sometimes, or different trade markets that are going on in the big town squares. Or I will also get to do one of my favorite things, which is walking by the Metzgerei and getting a little frikadelle or a bratwurst on my way to school for a little snack.
We both also very often walk by bakeries to get a snack or lunch. We eat a lot of pastries here, which is something that we really didn't get to do a whole lot in the US. There weren't bakeries that we could just walk to.
So after a long day of work and school, we will come home and we will normally have dinner at home. Groceries are marginally cheaper in our area here in Germany than they were in Oklahoma, but eating out is marginally cheaper in Oklahoma than it is here in our area in Germany. So we normally do cook at home. However, every once in a while, maybe once or twice a week, we do go out to restaurants in the area. One, we really like to support local restaurants, and two, we also really want to take advantage of the culture and foods that we don't normally get to have in the US while we are living here in Germany.
Ich hätte gerne eine Big Mac, bitte.
Im Menü?
Nein.
So when we do cook at home, our diets have changed some. Whereas back in the US, we would eat a lot of chicken and mashed potatoes. Now, a big staple in our diet is Wiener Schnitzel and Knödel. For the most part, we've been able to find things that we ate a lot back home. Over here, I haven't found a good salsa that I like yet, but we've been able to find just about everything else, and even a lot of the same brands that we had in the US. And speaking of groceries, in the US, we usually would go grocery shopping about once a week or every other week, and they usually would be pretty big grocery trips so that we didn't have to go as often. But here in Germany, we usually go grocery shopping once a week or maybe twice a week, and we usually buy smaller amounts at a time.
And we really have started doing that because we were walking and biking to the grocery store when we first moved here and we didn't have a car yet, and we couldn't really carry that much. But now we have a car and we could do larger grocery trips like we did in the US, but we kind of got used to having just the right amount for the meals that we had planned for the week, and a lot less seemed to be going to waste when we did it that way. So we still do a lot smaller grocery trips, and we will grab our reusable bags and our glass bottles to go fill up our milk, something that we didn't really do in the US either.
Another thing that we've added in is going to bakeries and butcher shops as part of our weekly grocery trips. Now, these are things that are available in the US, and we have friends that go to butcher shops all the time regularly. This just wasn't part of our routine. So I think it's a little more convenient for us here because they're right on our way home from work and school, and so it's more of our regular routine these days.
And when you have a bread culture like you have in Germany, you kind of have to go to the bakeries and get their bread because it's so much better that way.
Oh yeah.
Another obvious and big difference about living in Germany versus in the US is that on any given free weekend or free travel day, we can quickly and easily travel to any European destination that we have never been to. We can in the US travel to a lot of really cool places like the Grand Canyon or New Orleans or even Mexico relatively quickly. But in Europe, we do have more readily available transportation options that are also pretty cheap. In the US, we do have some things like JetBlue or Allegiant Airlines that are starting to come up and make travel to these different places across the US a little more affordable. But that is part of kind of living in one place your whole life and taking it for granted and not doing those big travel things.
So for us being in Germany, this is new and exciting, and so we're a lot more motivated to travel and have these new travel experiences. Whereas in the US, we were more in our day-to-day life and we weren't thinking about traveling as much. For us, traveling was more of a special occasion thing and a separate thing from our day-to-day lives. But here we've noticed our mindset is a little bit more, travel is a part of our regular lives and we do it a lot more and prioritize it more here.
We also have some other unique things available to us in Germany that we don't get to do in the US in our normal daily lives. Like we have 3 castles, including one that we can see from our balcony, that are directly in the vicinity of our location and we can quickly get to and just be checking out a castle on any free day.
In our area of the US, there's a really strong cowboy culture that have lots of rodeos, and there's an amazing Native American culture that have lots of cultural events. And we went to these some growing up, but they're just not things that we think about going to in our day-to-day lives, which is strange because these are really amazing things. And also, Joe Exotic, aka the Tiger King, his animal ranch was about 2 hours from where we lived, so I guess we could have been going to that. But it just makes us wonder if in Germany, castles and things that we're just really amazed by here are just regular day-to-day things that they aren't as excited about and don't take advantage of, like we didn't take advantage of things back in the US that were just part of our normal lives. But then we're comparing that to Germans and their castles. Like that's kind of what I'm saying.
Germans have castles.
We have
the Tiger King. I don't see what your point is. Are those not in the same level? Something that we always have tried to make a point of whenever we are traveling to different countries is to make sure that we learn a few phrases or a few words in the language of the country we're visiting to show them that respect. As you guys have seen in some of our other videos, we are learning German. I have already released 2 videos completely in German, so you can go watch those videos. And Germany is a place though that we have learned all across the country. Almost anywhere that you go, you will find really, really good English speakers. And so much so that we almost got to a point where we stopped asking people if they even spoke English before we started talking to them, but we still have a little moment before we go into a store, before we interact with someone new, where we have a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of nervousness in how are we going to be able to communicate because of our lack of really being able to speak the language really, really well. And of course, this is different from our daily lives in the US where we never encounter this kind of uncomfortable moment, I guess you could call it, whenever we went in, because we always knew we're gonna be able to speak. And this is pretty self-evident, but I feel like we've been able to grow a lot because of this, and we're able to push ourselves out of our comfort zones and interact with a lot of people that we wouldn't normally have a chance to interact with.
While living here, we've gotten to experience so many new and amazing things. So whether you're in Germany, you're eating canoodle, or you're in the US and eating mashed potatoes, one of the most amazing things that we've learned about living in a new country is how much more in common we all truly have.
And again, this is our daily life from the US and our new daily life now living in Germany. But whenever we put these side by side, what we really feel like we've noticed, and it's something that I feel is really profound that I learned whenever I studied abroad here in Germany, living with a German family, is that our lives, our day-to-day daily lives, really aren't that different. When you break it completely down, we all wake up, have breakfast, go to work or school, come home, spend time with our families, and then start it all over again. Whenever we often think of foreign countries, we get lost in thinking about how vastly different we are and they must be completely different from us. But we really realize that it humanizes us a lot whenever we realize, sure, we have these small differences in what we do throughout the day, but as a whole, we all pretty much live our lives fairly similarly at the base level. Even when we are doing the differences videos between Germany and the US, one thing that we are always trying to get across is that even though there are these differences, that does not mean that one country is always right or wrong. It is just simply that we do things differently. And we hope that you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, please hit that like button and definitely hit that subscribe button. Also hit that bell icon and you'll be alerted every single time we upload a new video. We will see you in our next video.
Cheers.
So even we action.
We'll try that again.
And the final, what's the word? What are we doing here? We're
living in Germany.
no, that's not what I'm asking. Okay.
What are you doing?
Go away, bud.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. We were doing this, actually, hold on. What, there he is again. I think we got him. That's it?
Hard no, this is buggers.
Oh, it's over here now. You missed it every single time. It's over there now?
Yeah, he's fast.
Oh, it's on the table. He's up here. Oh, I hit
No,
it.
he's there. What? Are there two?
There might be twins.
An amazing Native American culture that had all kinds of neat events and cultural events. Oh,
Events and cultural events. Both.